how not to test a rocket engine, how to actually test a rocket engine, and how to stack a second Starship tower. Now, I just have one really important question first. How do you host this show? Kevin, roll the intro.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome, everybody, to the Flame Trench. No, I am not Jack Beyer, and I am not EJ. I am Sawyer Rosenstein, and surprisingly, for the first time in all the years I've been doing the Flame Trench here, I am hosting it for the first time. So, bear with me, folks, but I'm sure they have some good excuses. And on an unrelated note, a happy birthday to EJ. I am, though, joined by an absolutely fantastic team in the trench today. So I have to make sure that I say hello to our fantastic team, including D, with probably the best background I have ever seen here in the trench. D, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a great day out here at Kennedy Space Center, and of course, always great when you can sit in the shadow of the VAB.
And that is not a green screen, folks. That is an actual background from on top of the roof of our building at the press site. So, yeah, I still love that. And also joining us is Ryan. How's it going, Ryan?
It's going fantastic. How about you, Sawyer? Good Friday.
It is. It is a Friday full of freedom here in the United States. Getting the day off from work yesterday, I guess. But yeah, everything is good here, and hopefully all is good as well for our overlord, the god of the flame trench, Kevin Michael Reed, who is pushing the buttons and pulling the levers for us today. So let's get things started here. A reminder, if you have questions throughout the show, tag us at NASASpaceflight. We'll do our best to answer them as we go, keeping in mind, though, that we are going to be answering them related to the topics that we talk about. So you got the idea from the cold open there. We will, of course, be talking about Starship, the stacking of the tower, and everything going on with Hurricane Barrels. So if you have those questions, hold on to them for just a little bit longer. But anything we're talking about, tag us, and we will do our best to answer them as we go.
Sawyer, I have a problem today. I don't have any levers. I have a lot of buttons, but my levers are disconnected right now.
That's it. Show's canceled. Roll the outro. Can't do it anymore. We need the levers.
All right, it's over.
Later.
Well, good news is I've got my flight simulator throttle here, so that'll be our lever for the show today. We can continue. And we will start things off with a static fire that wasn't so static. I guess an unstatic fire over in China. Right, Ryan?
Yeah, it's basically they tried to static fire a newer booster. It's kind of like a Falcon 9, 9 engines on the bottom stage. They're Carol-Ox engines and whatnot. They put this rocket on the older stand, the Tiangong 2 stand. And it wasn't exactly rated to be on that stand. So there was a failure, and the rocket decided to launch rather than stay there in static fire, is basically what happened. So it's yeah, it didn't really go well, as you can see from this video here. Yeah, it's an interesting rocket though. It's gonna basically follow the same kind of lineage as like Falcon 9 is. It's not gonna start off reusable right away. They'll start with expendables, and then they're gonna try to put reuse into it. So yeah, it just didn't go well.
Yeah, I think that deserves its own yikes. You bet, concur. We don't need any more of these. Although I don't speak Mandarin, so I don't know how they would actually say it. But assume along those lines there. And it's going to be a cool rocket, I think. You know, another one of those private companies that's doing some really cool work, but it's something you don't hear of very often, that's for sure, of a static fire that somehow accidentally let go. And I mean, it's, from my understanding, literally being classified as a launch rather than a static fire because it did technically ignite all its engines and leave the ground, right?
Well, one thing we do know is it can generate a lot of thrust. And importantly, of course, like no people were harmed. That's the most important thing here. Everyone was safe despite the incident taking place. So,
for the company, yes. I will add that stipulation, yeah. But yeah, that is the vehicle itself. I mean, if it didn't look a little bit like Falcon 9 to you, then I would highly recommend getting your eyes checked, because that's basically a Falcon 9 copy and paste in Kerbal almost. It's got that vibe, and especially once you get landing legs and things stuck on it to try and recover it. But, you know, it's a cool idea, but how do you mess that up so badly? I mean, we had that one test that was on the side of the mountain that kind of messed up a bit, and now you got this one that's literally flying when it's not supposed to. I mean, there was shots from a drone, and the drone is just kind of static there, like looking down, and it's just flying right by it. I mean, how does that happen?
I wish that drone had tracked it upward. That would have been one of the most incredible shots. I will say there were some interesting photos shared about the web afterwards where it almost looked like some of the pieces on the bottom of the rocket, like that whatever hold down clamps actually grab onto, it looked almost like they partially sheared off. So whether it's like the stand itself, partially the rocket itself, it'll be interesting to see what the solution to preventing this sort of thing in the future is, because I definitely want to see that view again, but with the payload and when it's supposed to be taking off.
Yeah, I love this shot. You see it just taking off, all of a sudden, like, oh crap, and then really close to the drone, just you see the shake of the drone, and it's just like, yeah, I wasn't supposed to be there. Oh boy. Also, I'm being told in chat, it is not a 1-to-1 copy. The final rocket will be 2 meters taller than Falcon 9. What was that, a 1 to 1.01 ratio or something? I don't know. I study journalism, not math.
Not an exact, but it's pretty close to a Falcon 9. I mean, not 9 engines on its first core, is the primary core of it. And you got, their Paralox. It's a pretty similar vehicle to Falcon 9, but of course it's not exact. It's not like It's not like they took a Falcon 9 and took it over there. But
it feels almost a little bit Buran-esque of, hey, that looks a lot like the shuttle. I mean, obviously there's some differences, but you can really tell where they got the idea from. Although Buran did actually get some documentation from the United States that ended up in their hands, although a lot of it was actually modified. It was older ones that had some of the errors and mistakes that they later learned from and corrected on the US shuttle that they just sent over and said, here you go, these are totally what we use. There's totally nothing wrong with these whatsoever. Good luck.
Sawyer, we do have a really cool article from Adrian on NASASpaceflight.com, the China Roundup, if you want to learn more about this static fire.
Not so static fire, exactly, yeah.
Half static, half
I saw John Cook in the comments asking, is this a RUL, a rapid unscheduled launch rather than a rapid unscheduled disassembly.
Oh, that's
Sure.
a stretch. Come on. And
It's a
that's coming from the
stretch.
pun guy. That's a stretch. Let's see here. We also had a question from Musical Wolves, which always good to see that name. Was the FTS activated for the flying static fire, the FSF? There you go. Didn't look like it was until it came flattened down on the ground, and I don't even know if the FTS was armed for a test like that. Any ideas?
I actually don't know. I don't even know if it had it on it, to be honest with you. I'm not a full expert on China rockets as much as, say, Adrian is. But, yeah. So, but it is called the Flight Termination System. So, I mean, why would you arm it if you didn't actually prepare to fly? Right?
I mean, yeah, true. Which comes to the question of, like Ross asking here, do you think the static fire mishap was an honest mistake or an act of negligence? Which, I mean, I guess it's technically both, but I think it was genuinely like, it's an older test stand, but they're like, oh, it'll be fine, until it wasn't.
I'm not an engineer by any means, but this is the patent for the test stand. And just looking at that and looking at the drone footage that we showed on Twist today, it just looks like it's such a wimpy test stand. I mean, I know we stare at the OLM every day, but it just looks wimpy. Like, was it really an act of like bad engineering?
I mean, the real kicker is they used that for Tianglong 2 and it worked. But they figured, let's try to use new. I guess the equivalency would be, I gotta try to remember how powerful the Tianglong 2 is, but I guess the equivalent would be, it's like, oh, all right, let's use the same GSE hardware for. Well, there's a bigger bit of a jump there, but between Falcon 1 and Falcon 9, let's use the same, like, okay, that's not gonna work very well, but you learn, you make mistakes, you learn. It happens.
That's a way to put it, yeah. You definitely learn from your mistakes. But yeah, based off of everything, and Ryan in the back channel, the British Ryan, making a good point that it is the flight termination system when we talk about FTS. It was not meant for flight, so there probably was no flight termination system. They don't have a static fire termination system.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly it doesn't prevent any damage to the pad to terminate your rocket when it is sitting on the pad. That doesn't help anything.
Yeah, let's just destroy our ground infrastructure while we're at it too, yeah.
Why not? What could possibly go wrong?
Also the fact that apparently 2 had 2.5 meganewtons of, and this one had 8 meganewtons, which I'm no mathematician, but 8 is a lot more than 2.5.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's like trying to use a Falcon 1 hold down system compared to a Falcon 9 hold down system almost. It's like, okay. Yeah.
Or the change from Falcon 9 to Falcon Heavy.
Yeah.
That's like 3 times more, and it's basically 3 times more there. So.
There we go. What you see on screen explains everything perfectly. I'm sure we can.
It absolutely does. I don't know if that's Chinese or Mandarin, but Adrian has translated this, and apparently it is certified for 600 tons. Is that correct, Adrian? Can you correct me in the back channel, because I can't read this? I'm just putting it up on the screen because you told me that's what it says.
I see 600 tons in there.
I see that, so that would make sense. But yeah. There we go. NASASpaceflight, proud to be multilingual. All right. Let me take a moment here just to thank some people. Jim Cabot, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership while we wait for Adrian to confirm those numbers. Wayne, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Lars, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Along with, I'll save that name, Kevin, for you once I know you've got everything ready to go there. Rankley, saying love the cold open, keeping us on our toes. That is always the goal. Jonas, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Holy smokes. Elmarie, I apologize on the pronunciation, but thank you for becoming a Red Team member. Let me know whenever you're ready, Kevin. Ninja Decimator!
Pew, pew, pew.
Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. See, I don't even need to know the pew, pew, pew. I don't even need to do that part anymore. We've got the sound effect for it, so...
I like saying the pew pew pews anyway, though.
I mean, they are fun. They are very fun.
Now, another question we had in the queue is how will the failure of the static fire here affect or delay upcoming launches? And the simple response is we really don't quite know. Whether they decide to totally revamp stuff on the ground, on the rocket, there are a number of different changes that they could make before another static fire test, and how long that will take remains to be seen. So all we can really do is wait and see, and wait for what information does eventually get out there about the changes that they plan to make here.
And how it comes out also, given that it is a Chinese company, they're not always as open.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know Adrian was very excited for that launch. Just the real launch, not the fake launch that we just had. So. All right. Let's see here. Also, Mark W. asking, thermal curtain failure? I would say there's a lot of failure. I don't know specifically thermal curtain, but yeah. Let's see. I see someone keeps adding questions to the queue. D, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I added that one. So I thought that went well with one of our other discussion questions. They're asking if this incident could inspire American or other companies to run flight termination systems during static fires in the event that something like this were to happen. And I do not think that this would encourage that, because again, that would just cause the same sort of issue of a large RUD at the pad. But an interesting thing is the safety of the test, because there's a village about a kilometer away from the site, and so with this rocket taking off unexpectedly without the systems in place for without any sort of safety systems really in place to mitigate something like this. I mean, we see the rocket turning quite dramatically, and if the engines hadn't shut off at that point, then it could have led to larger issues. So I'm curious what all of your thoughts are on the safety here with this sort of testing failure.
I mean, I don't think that's going to change anything, at least here in the United States. I feel like we kind of have enough other things in place to make sure that this doesn't happen here. And given the regulatory standards in China, I don't expect there to be any changes over there either, personally. So I don't think we're going to see much change from this. And also, I need to make a huge apology that I totally just whiffed on a Space Camp reference. I freaking love that movie. Yes, I am a little young from when it came out, but that doesn't mean I haven't seen it about 12 times. And it's just one of those days, and it went right over my head. So, sorry about that. Ryan, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I don't think it'll cause any changes here. China's a whole different animal. We kind of know what they're like in some instances. We'll just put it that way. Like they don't really do very well with other rockets either. As in boosters landing where they shouldn't be. It's a thing that's always happened in China still. Speaking of which, and for those of you who don't know, that orange smoke is hypergolic. That's not good. It's very toxic. So yeah, I don't think it'll change anything. The company itself, they will fix their problem and they'll figure it out. That's what they'll do. So
I'm really hoping that reusability spreading its way across the spaceflight industry as a whole will help eventually improve some of these safety risks globally. Because if you're trying to save the boosters for reuse and for cost saving, that means you need somewhere safe to land them, and those trajectories and landings will be far better planned out to avoid any potentially occupied areas.
You're funny. But yeah, as we've definitely seen some pieces of rockets land on houses, and yes, that orange smoke is unfortunately quite common, as we've seen for boosters coming back down in the Chinese hills there. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe they need a bigger flame trench. Get it? 'Cause that's the name of the show.
Sawyer, the reason I wanted to bring up this video was because we've seen this happen all the time in China, and nothing is being done about it. And honestly, if you look at spaceflight Twitter after this video came out last week, and there's some details about the launch that this video is from in the back channel if someone wants to grab that. But if you look at the theater, I almost said theater Twitter, spaceflight Twitter, and how upset they were about this. And now we have this other incident not even a week later. I think, something needs to be done about that. And it's China. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm surprised that we see video like this all the time. And then we see the static launch or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the not-so-static fire is what I'm calling it, but yeah, still. It's extremely common, and I mean, this kind of happens every time videos like these pop up. I believe China, as of right now, only has one launch location where the first stage is disposed of in the water as opposed to over land. And they will literally tell people in villages, hey, there's a chance that a rocket will fall on your house. It's probably best that you get out of the village for a day and come back. And they don't really tell them that when they come back, hey, that orange smoke, probably not a good thing to breathe this. So, yeah. But that's a whole nother thing. That could totally get into a political debate here, which I think there was enough politics yesterday in the UK for the world, so we're good today. All right, then. Let's continue along on how to actually do a static fire test. And to that, we turn to Stoke Space, as they have a new engine that's been fired up again, and gorgeous, right?
Yeah, Stoke is one of those companies I'm really, really excited for to get their rockets going. I mean, they first started firing this engine back in early June. And as you can see here, I don't know if it's a thing with just full flow stage combustion cycle engines. Because by the way, this is full flow stage combustion, so it's the same cycle as the Raptor engine is using methalox. But I don't know if it's a thing with that kind of style or whatnot that causes it to be a little bit more of an orange flame coming out compared to something like the BE4, which is a closed cycle engine, and it seems to be a little bit cleaner. I don't, of course, I'm not a rocket scientist in any sense of the word, but that's just something I've noticed when firing that. But I cannot wait for this engine to be on an actual rocket from to launch this. Their plans are really, really cool to do like a partial like aero, basically kind of like an aerospike with a ring of engines around. On their upper stage, it's gonna look so cool. I just can't wait.
I mean, you're right. It really does look like such a clean flame on that, and also just gonna talk about the fact that that thing went from 0 to 350,000 horsepower in a second. It's just to see it continue to burn like that. I don't know why, but seeing that, it's just 100,000 pounds of thrust at full power. It's gorgeous to see. So clean, so beautiful, and then perfect shutdown on that. I mean,
I'm a
talk about
sucker
ramping
for.
up.
I'm a sucker for cool mock diamonds. Like seriously, as you can see right there, it just always looks so cool.
Yeah, now that's one of them. Once Stoke actually starts flying, imagine 7 of those.
Gorgeous. I mean, just the color of the exhaust there, and I really want to get some slow-mo video of these engines, and that'll be just beautiful. I love seeing all this testing to know, like, when it does fly, like, they have so much time running these engines.
And I mean, that's the other thing, is we're used to seeing rocket engines start up fast. And they do. All of them pretty much do. But there's something about this one. I don't know why, but just watch. Just boom. Like that insta-thrust. I don't know how else to describe that. I don't know, there's something about that that just puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, and it's always like when SpaceX releases those the videos of Raptor that start up so quick too. Like I love I just love the look of Methalox. I for the longest time out at the Cape, it was solids, hydrogen, or just Carolox, and you didn't really have a lot. And then you get this Methalox, which it burns really clean like hydrogen, but you still got that color in it. And I cannot wait to see more and more Methalox engines fly, like out of anywhere, because it's just going to look so cool. And I can't wait for Stoke. I can't wait for Stoke as a company to get there.
Right. I mean, that's the cool thing, is we're looking at just the first stage here. A second stage that has, I believe, an aerospike design for the heat shield aerospike there. That's gonna be so cool.
I can't wait. It's gonna be really, really cool to get to that point.
Sorry, I know like we should be talking about more facts and things, but it kind of just, I don't know.
It's just beautiful.
It's something to just get hyped about. Ooh, look at the pretty rocket.
I love, like, right at startup, you can see the mock diamond change location. I assume that, like, as they're ramping up in that very first second, the exhaust gases are changing speed and pressure, and as it finds its highest performance balance of where the mock diamond settles, I just love watching it move back away from the engine like that.
Yeah, and there's a really good question here from Michael. Ryan, I don't know if you know the answer to this one, but what is that other stream below the engine bell?
That's water. Basically, to just protect the concrete and whatnot. So, like, when you're firing this close to the ground, the exhaust will eventually expand out and hit the ground, and basically it's just to cool it off and everything. That's all it is water.
That's what it is, yep. Yeah, you can kind of see it in their mini flame trench, I guess. And then we have to bring up the question from James Atkinson here.
Good question.
Doesn't that nozzle look stubby, though?
It should be even stubbier. I like it. It's a great nozzle.
Get too stubby, then then you get performance losses, and you don't want that.
But think of the cost saving of the manufacturing. Although I guess they don't need to worry about that so much with their fully reusable focus here. They don't need to worry so much about the materials costs like SpaceX is doing on their second stage. So I like the design of the nozzle though, and I wouldn't complain if it's a funky looking stubby like SpaceX sometimes uses.
Oh,
Okay,
gosh.
so MM54 in the members multi-view says that they're stoked for Stoke, and I'm surprised no one else has said that. Y'all failed.
I was going to say it, but I thought that was even too cheesy, but it is really good.
You will not hear me making puns like that. I'm ready to just one that Sawyer, I'm sure, will be making throughout the rest of the Flame Trench.
I've tried, folks. I've tried. That is the best part about being at the launches in person, besides the launch itself, is that Max and D have no way to shut me up when it comes to my puns.
We will try. We can escape from you. We can run away to other ends of the press site. We'll be like, hey Sawyer, you wanna go cover landing? We'll stay over here for the launch. You know, just gotta get away from the puns.
I mean, the easiest way is to literally just walk up the steps to the roof. I can't follow you, but
I'm safe up here. I'm safe from puns up here.
But doesn't mean that I haven't tried to get D into the pun game, and they're very resistive, but I will work my magic.
I'm sure there will be some good puns eventually that are just so awful that I have to say them, and I will myself cringe as everyone watching also cringes at how bad they are.
The more cringe, the more I've succeeded.
He's won.
I have won. If you cringe, I win. That's how that works, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I see a lot of people asking about the stubby engines. We had the poll whether D had enough stickers or not on their laptop, of which the answer was no, of course not. They need more.
Oh, did I? Okay. I have so much more room. So actually, I need a more current NSF sticker on my laptop. I've had stickers, I've handed out stickers, I've handed out patches. I do not have a current NSF sticker on my laptop. I've got my patches attached to it, but I definitely need a lot more stickers on my laptop. So if you have any suggestions for stickers, let me know. But yes, we need some proper NSF stickers added up here.
Yeah, maybe get a Stoke sticker on there. A Stoke.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway.
Sawyer. I might have to leave this early. Just call it.
Oh, I wouldn't blame you. But yeah, no, I guess the real question now is this considered a stubby nozzle or not? That's the real question now.
I mean, it depends on the size of the engine and if they had actually designed a something different. And there is, by the way, there's Stoke's second stage with its heat shield with ring of engines, basically, that'll kind of act as a kind of like an aerospike, you know, with the way they're angling them in. It's gonna look so cool. That just looks so cool.
An aerospike second stage heat shield to slow down and land. I mean, what thinks of that?
Everything great at once. I mean, what more could you ask for?
It's like an inverted vacuum optimized sort of shape there. It's like, like, if they had a vacuum optimized, more traditional engine setup, I could see like, okay, yeah, then we can call the first stage engines stubby engines, and I would be all on board with that. It's a little bit harder without a larger nozzle version in the same style.
I mean, that's what an aerospike is. It's basically an inverted rocket engine, in a lot of ways. So instead of having the exhaust on the inside and you have your nozzle out, basically your nozzle or your spike or whatever you want to call it, whether it's a toroidal or an aerospike, whether it's linear or whatnot, is on the inside. So basically your exhaust hugs the spike or the linear piece of it, and just via pressure, and that's how it's controlled. in layman's terms, basically.
Yeah, so the pressure of the atmosphere that you're at helps redirect the plume, because with standard engines, they have a nozzle that's either more optimized for sea level pressure, and then they're less efficient once they're in lower pressure, or you're optimized for vacuum, and so it's less efficient, and it wouldn't, of course, be ideal to try to land on a fully vacuum optimized engine just efficiency wise, whereas the Aerospike engines are sort of the best of both worlds. By using atmosphere as the thing to redirect the exhaust, they're able to be more efficient throughout.
It's just, unfortunately, the Earth's atmosphere is a little bit too thin to really make Aerospikes worth it, because the biggest problem with them is cooling. Trying to cool the spike itself is not easy. Even through regenerative cooling, it's not simple. So say if you were on Venus, Aerospike would work great. Use the atmospheric pressure to push against it. Then trying to cool it is totally worth it. It would be much more worth it to use an Aerospike than a regular engine. But here on Earth, not so much. The atmosphere is is a little too thin for that. So what they're doing instead is they're taking a bunch of regular engines and kind of directing them inward on what is more or less a spike, but it's not really a spike. It's kind of like a large toroidal Aerospike with a bunch of engines in it, and it'll direct and cause the exhaust to act like an Aerospike engine. It's kind of cool. It basically amplifies the effect, so it'll be more efficient.
So we can call it an Stoke instead of an Aerospike.
Sure, why not? It's kind of their own. I mean, I get the pun, Sawyer, but it is their own way of doing it. I mean, yeah. So, like, and you look at, I mean, it's trying to use pressure to get more efficiency out of your thrust. I mean, you just look at the Starship launches. I mean, you see all that exhaust goes into the mega Mach diamond. It's kind of the same principle. So, you know.
Now here's the real question that Sondrax is asking. It is a good question. When do we think Stoke will have their first launch? And for those who forget, what pad does Stoke actually have? Because I think that's also interesting to know too, D.
Oh, I
forget which
not familiar. Also, trying to guess a time on a new rocket is always very difficult. So throughout the rest of this year, they're going to be working on maturing the engine, maturing their vehicle design, and trying to work their operations towards supporting an orbital launch. But it's definitely a good question on when they will believe that they are ready to make that attempt, because that first step of firing the engines on a vehicle in the air is a big one, and there are a lot of challenges that come with that. So we will have to wait and see when to go for that.
Yep, and you were actually just standing a couple weeks ago on their, what will be their launch pad at the Cape, which is, I remember I think it's LC-14? That's like 14, I'm pretty sure it's LC-14. So, yeah, in case you're wondering, SpaceX's landing zones are LC-13, and where we had all of our remote cameras set up for the booster landings for the most recent GOES-U launch with Falcon Heavy was placed at pad 14. So, yeah.
Yeah, we set our remote landing cameras on top of the blockhouse there to get a view sort of over the brush down on the landing pads for that synchronized booster landing. Well, not quite synchronized, but dual booster landing.
Close enough, but yeah. So that'll be interesting to see, hopefully, Stoke flying out of there. I mean, I think we're still over a year away, but it would be nice to see it, hopefully, before the end of next year.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here what we got message-wise. RC Horseman, name we see here quite often as well, saying, really enjoyed my space place tour of Boca, Houston, and Canaveral. On my way home now. Thanks, NSF, for keeping me up to date on space news in my travels. We are happy to do that. Perpetuated saying, we want Jake. Well, guess who just happened to jump up onto my desk this very second? Convenient timing. I couldn't have done this any better if I tried. It's Jake. Hey, Jake. So, there you go. Everyone's got their favorite space cat, which I've learned, I think he's way more popular than I am here at NSF. I don't blame him. Booster 1058 saying, pun trench, Sawyer. I hear you, bud. I'm stoked. I do like that. I like that a lot. Musical Wolves saying, how many gallons of water would be needed to use a water-cooled heat shield? I don't think that would even be practical if you had the tank capacity to hold it and the weight to be able to lift it up into orbit, right?
So, trying to think here. In order to do it, you would have to do some kind of regenerative system. I don't know. It really depends on the size of your vehicle. We're just going to put that caveat in here. But you'd have to come up with a system to where you basically, the water takes the heat away from the surface that the plasma is hitting and would eventually boil and go to steam. But then you basically have to go through and recondense that using a recondenser of some sort, which would require a decent amount of energy. That's not something that you can really just do off batteries. It's kind of hard to do. Or it would be pretty heavy batteries. Like, you'd have to recondense it back into water and then put it back into the system, and just a continuous cycle. I don't really know if that could even work. Someone can go ahead and do the study on that. I bet a study's been done, but yeah, I don't know.
I bet that's also probably why it hasn't been done, is someone did the study and realized this is not practical. It's better to have either ablative material that burns away, or, fight fire with fire like Falcon 9, or, I don't know, use, say, reusable heat shield tiles like Shuttle or Starship, but yeah.
Or a combination.
Ooh, now we're talking. Yeah, that ends up being the more practical method.
We can talk about later, so, yeah.
We will indeed talk about that later. Ooh.
Sawyer, I have a question from a guy named Kevin Michael Reed who's wondering, is it actually going to look like this when it's flying? Because it is so beautiful.
I mean, I would think it would, although 7 of them in a row might make it a little more difficult to see the individual diamonds like that, right?
I hope we get really up-close remotes. My fingers are crossed. I think that will be incredible. I mean, I think at a certain point the plumes will sort of blend together, but right up by the nozzles themselves, seeing all of those together would be beautiful. And so I definitely think, I mean, even looking at Falcon 9, you get a little bit of that, and then Atlas, of course, you can see that, and Starship is the biggest example. Admittedly, with Starship, it all sort of becomes one massive mock diamond, but hopefully we'll get a gorgeous set of all those.
Hey, Kevin.
I think we need to beg Stoke for some up-close live remotes, too, so we can
Stoke,
get this
please.
close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, you might get your answer later this year with another rocket that also has 7 engines, that also is Methalox. I don't know, what could I be talking about?
I have no idea.
Then again,
I mean,
it is
no
a different
idea
cycle on the engine, but still.
what you're talking about.
What are you talking about? I don't know.
I don't know. What rocket would be methyl? Okay, whatever. It's New Glenn.
Yeah.
But anyways, later this year, Kevin, we might get that answer. It's got 7 engines. It's Methalox. Then again, it is a closed cycle, right? At a full flow stage combustion. But I cannot wait for that thing to fly and see the exhaust that comes out of that. Just to see that rocket fly. So.
The 2 things I'm most excited about is A, seeing it fly, and B, seeing D's slow-mo remotes. Just saying.
I'm excited by slow-mo remotes as well. I'll need some more cameras. I will want to have them very close and put them at a lot of risk.
I hope Blue Origin lets us put close cameras. That'll be really cool. I think they will. I think they'll want to show it off. But,
I hope so, and even if they don't, 36 was pretty visible from on top of the blockhouse at 14, so maybe if they don't want to support remotes on their pad, something will be organized and we'll get to set something up at 14 for some slightly more distant remotes, but remotes nonetheless. I would still be happy with that.
And hey, Stoke, if you need someone to help with slow motion video for your streams or something,
right here,
I think I can recommend someone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. I also want to thank Ashley here, who thanks NSF while getting an item from the shop at NASASpaceflight.com. What'd you get? Ooh, good call with the IFT-2 launch shot there.
Nice.
Now, speaking of NSF and live streams, I think it's time to talk about the next flight that you may have seen either here on NASASpaceflight or through Firefly Aerospace. And that would be the Firefly Flight 5, The Noise of Summer. Which, if anyone else didn't have the song Boys of Summer going through your head while that was flying, for shame. But anyway, this was Flight 5, which was successful as confirmed by Firefly themselves. Part of the Venture Class Launch Services demonstration that they have with NASA, VCLS, lifting off from Slick to West, I believe it was, at Vandenberg Space Force Base at 9:04 p.m. on July 3rd. It took them a couple days to get it off after some helium decided to not play nice on the second stage on that first attempt, drumming at T-7 seconds. And they did try to recycle, which I think was really cool and something we can talk about within that same 30-minute window, but decided to take time, get it done, and there you go. So, as you saw there, NSF providing the live stream production services for this launch. So, a huge shout out to Kevin Michael Reed, who's behind the scenes on that one as well, Ryan Caton, Das, of course, John Galloway, all of the team at Firefly. I mean, I think it absolutely looked freaking awesome. And part of the big thing with this launch was proving the ability that, hey, you give us your satellites, and when you're ready to launch, and you say, hey, we want these up within the next 24 hours or so. And they swing into full gear, encapsulate it, load it up, put it out on the pad, and send it into space in that time. And I think they're starting to prove that, especially with the 8 different payloads that they had on board from all these different universities and all these CubeSats, and, well, from different NASA centers. I mean, I kind of love this Firefly stuff. It seems like it's such a, small, obscure rocket we don't hear a lot about, but when we do hear about it, I think it's doing some cool stuff. Right? Anyone?
Absolutely. Now, I have to admit something, and I feel awful to admit this.
Uh-oh.
I slept through the launch. I didn't watch it. I was out here. I was out here the night before for the very early Starlink, then pushed to very late into the window. And then I got to go home. I got just a few hours of sleep, and then I was picking up a coworker of ours from the airport. So I was quite busy all day. And when I finally got home after all of that, I fell asleep instantly. So I did not watch the stream live, quite unfortunately.
I'm quite upset with you, D.
I'm very sorry. If I had had more than 3 hours of sleep, I would have, but I had been up for a long time. I feel awful. I'm so sorry, Kevin.
Sorry, I'm hearing something in my earpiece. What is that? Oh, that's excuses.
Yeah.
What if I said it was the night that I ended up having a migraine? Is that an excuse? Because I did.
Does it make it
watched
better
some
if
of
I
it.
had it like ready on my phone? But I mean, it might have played on my phone as I slept, but I fell asleep before it actually launched.
Don't tell me I'm the only one of the three of us here that actually watched it live. Besides Kevin, obviously, since he was producing.
I did actually watch it. Yes, I did. And I can't say much because I was part of the production team. But can I just say, like, working with Firefly is so cool. There's such cool people. There's such passionate people, and it was an amazing experience working with them for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, what you guys were able to have access to be able to have that camera inside the launch control center, to have literally cameras that you could access on the stream in the flame trench. Oh, you said it again. On the on the transporter erector, all of the different parts of the tower there. I mean, that's pretty darn cool. Look, I mean, look at this. The second stage camera. Be able to get access to that, and then the live telemetry in the bottom left corner, all of that is just, I mean, yeah. It really was a well put together stream, I have to say, just from watching perspective on all of it.
Yeah, and having that opportunity really gives you perspective into what's going on behind the scenes when a company is launching a rocket. I mean, most of us have never been there, have never actually been part of that, and I think it was a really cool experience to see just how hard they work and what's happening. And Firefly has been really cool. Yeah, because we are essentially an extension of the team, we were given access to a lot of cool cameras and stuff. And they're constantly asking us, "You want more? You want more?" And of course, we say yes. But yeah, like just the fact that we had a second stage camera in space, and it was the official feed. That was really cool. It's a really cool opportunity. Obviously, we worked with them on the last flight as well, and we hope they like our work and we'll be able to work with them again.
That would be nice. And then, I mean, talk about, as much as we love our Flame Trench team here, and, starting off for a while there with me, Jack, and EJ, and expanding, obviously, now as we continue along, I don't know. There was something about having, what was it, Morgan along with Das? That the two of them you could feel the excitement from the team. You've got the structures person going all out on the structures, bringing in the little coupons and talking about tapping with the coins, and then Das, of course, being Das. But I mean, it was so fun. I can't be the only one in chat. Come on, I can't be the only one that thought that was like the duo when it comes to on-air commentary.
I thought they were amazing, and they were great from the first rehearsal together. There was a lot of good chemistry and a lot of passion for rocketry. For launching rockets, and I think that's what actually made it really good commentary, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. So I guess Kevin, while we have you, we can ask some of the questions that are, to kind of be heading your way here. Yeah, someone's saying so. Whose camera was that on the second stage?
That is Firefly. Most of the cameras that we had during the stream are Firefly's cameras.
And they're just nice enough to give you access to the feed.
Yep.
Nice. Let's see, what other questions do we have here?
Although Das really wants to put some cameras in space, as you heard on the stream. So, one day, maybe Das will get to launch his DOS satellite cam. DOSSat? I don't know.
Slow-mo cameras in space. Let's do it. I will help make this happen.
And then Harry will have control of it, as we all know Harry. So yeah.
I mean,
all as well.
DOSSat has to be a thing, especially given there were some really clever names for those satellites. I mean, there was one that was a CatSat, and given that these were CubeSats, and there was one from Kansas that they called it CubeSat, KU, Kansas University CubeSat. So I mean, the pun in the names of the payloads, were just, oh, chef's kiss.
Yeah,
And all of the payloads
Happy
had
Sawyer.
really interesting names. Even the JSC ones, which I can't remember them off the top of my head, they were R5 something or other, which Morgan joked about. But yeah.
Also, at NASASpaceflight official in chat saying, horse cam in space. Second horse ever to go to space following Colonel Nettie McNay on STS-112. You'll have to find out about that mission when we get to it on Shuttle Sundays, 3 p.m. Eastern on Space Coast Live.
You know, one thing I did watch back all of the streams, and I was looking back when this moment in the stream,
yes,
when NASA spaceflight officials said that they looked like fireflies, and you know, like NSF official, you're awesome, because none of us thought about it until after I brought it up to Das, and he's like, oh, "We should have said that." Yeah, no, none of us thought about it until afterwards.
That was brilliant, though. Again, those shots were spectacular there, too, just with all of the ice and everything floating around. Yes, that was absolutely their bestest pun, for sure. That was really, really clever, but the views were great. Getting to see mission success always is great. Let's see here, question-wise. Here's a good one from John. They said, so I know that Firefly is doing cool things with fast turn launches, and Ryan, I'll throw this one to you. They're saying, why has no company done a small-sat solid stage, like an ICBM-type missile?
Small-sat solid. Well, solids are tricky. They can be easy to fire, but they can also be hard to control how much you actually put into space. It would really, I mean, you look back to, I think it was Omega A, or it was just Omega, I forget what it was called again. Northrop's all-solid vehicle, which would have been, well, interesting to say the least. It was like a Kerbal rocket, if there ever was a Kerbal rocket. Just solids on solids. But trying to use a solid doesn't give as much control into space as, say, liquid does, and you can just better control it, to be honest. I think that's why no one's really done it that way.
I mean, we've seen second stages in a way. I mean, there was Pegasus, although first stage, I guess, is in L1011 TriStar.
Well, we also had Antares.
I was about to say Antares second stage.
Yeah.
Antares.
Which, I mean, that's an interesting choice because you have the most controllability on the first stage, which, of course, they had RP1 and liquid oxygen. But then they went on to a solid second stage. So whereas a lot of these rockets, like you look at Atlas, its second stage is responsible for a lot of the precision that earns Atlas its venerable title. And seeing a solid second stage sort of might necessitate more thrust capability on the payload itself to perfect the orbit. Whereas if you have a solid first stage and then a liquid second stage where you have even more flexible control, you might be able to have a better orbit. So it is interesting to see something like Antares where it has that solid second stage going on.
Yeah, and that one almost actually caused terrible destruction to one of the missions when it kind of overfired, and then it ended up flipping around to try and correct its orbit, because again, that's one of those where once you light it, you can't turn it off. So to get that final orbit right, you kind of have to flip the whole payload around and damage solar arrays, and yeah, that was not one of their best moves there, and one of the downfalls of the solids. I mean, we see them used a lot on sounding rockets. I see a bunch of people mentioning the SS-520, which is JAXA's, but not so much for full orbital class type rockets like this, which also the fact that it basically went right up to its final orbit and said, here you go, rather than, you know, going up to a parking orbit and then continuing onward and burning at apogee, things like that. It was just like, you know what? Here you go, 500 kilometers. We'll get it all up there for you, ready to go, and then just fire away when the time is right.
Absolutely. Like with so many of the newer rockets moving to reusability, and like solids are way cheaper than the liquid engines and stages that can propulsively land and make more sense to reuse. But if you're, what was I about to say there? Like if you're trying to replace the vast majority of your thrust, that would need to go in the place of that first stage that so many places are now trying to go, the SpaceX route of landing and reusing. So it's like, does it make sense for some companies to go for that? I mean, maybe, but it makes even more sense to just reuse the same rocket multiple times. And since it doesn't make so much sense for a solid second stage necessarily, I feel like we're somewhat seeing moves away from solids, albeit like Vulcan has solid rocket boosters strapped onto it. Like we're gonna see plenty of solids, but those are used for that extra thrust, and they still have liquid engines to carry and perfect their orbit.
Yeah, I mean, side cores I think are totally different from just a full-on solid stage.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was going to say, like, the solids on Vulcan and even, like, Ariane 6 and Atlas, or even the H2 or H3, a lot of those is because they use sustainer stages. So basically, there's their original core stage, or even SLS for that matter. Their original core stage has lower thrust, but a higher efficiency per se. But to truly get the whole thing into orbit or get into where you need it to be, you need added thrust on, so you need solids on. Like, SLS can't take off with just the core stage. It can't. It has to have the SRBs. Basically, that core burns for a full 8 minutes, just like pretty sure Vulcan burns for a full 8 as well. And it needs those SRBs for that little punch. But that's really the difference with strap-on SRBs rather than a regular SRB. Now, why? Just to go back to the question, why they don't use SRBs as a whole? I mean, yeah, they can be cheaper, but I think in the long run, well, if you want to build a rocket, say you want to scale up, okay, well, you have to find a way to then scale up an SRB, and if you want to go to like a 5-meter wide core stage, you're going to go to a 5-meter wide SRB? Or are you going to scale up your engine or just add more engines onto the bottom and just scale your tanks? Scalability becomes a little bit harder when it comes to solid rocket motors. Because, I mean, yeah, it just becomes harder. So I think that's why they stick with liquids rather than solids.
Okay, now I want to see 5-meter wide solid rocket booster, but
it's like the AJ260, I think. I'm trying to remember. It's like the largest solid ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember the thrust of that thing, but
I see people mentioning a certain rocket that shall not be named that ends with a 1 and an X that did fly with a solid rocket booster solely as the first stage.
That was a gorgeous rocket.
Okay.
That ugly son of a gun, which, by the way, how'd that flight go? How'd that first stage solid work?
Isn't that Ryan Caton's favorite rocket?
It's gotta be, right?
Like, that's the time where it was like, yeah, we have this shuttle-derived hardware. Let's just make everything out of it. I mean, let's just go back to the Ares concepts, the constellation concepts, the Jupiter concepts. I mean, I remember, what was it? It was like a Saturn or Ares core with 2 shuttle tanks strapped on each side with 4 solid rocket boosters. I don't know. The amount, if you just dig into the concepts, what they wanted to do with shuttle-derived hardware, it was just like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking?
Jupiter
Ares
C,
1
yes,
was never
please.
going to work. Never going to work. What'd you say, Sawyer?
Jupiter C, yes, please.
Oh.
Hi, Jake. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Ares was not going to be a thing. Like you said, it was a way to, hey, we've got these 4-segment solids. We can stick a segment on it and use it. Great. And you know what? Let's just make that the whole first stage because those are reusable and can parachute back down and actually be caught. So what did we do? We decided to use them anyway in the SLS and not reuse them, but, you know, that's its own story.
Now, here's a somewhat interesting question. How about solid landing motors for a reusable small launcher? And that's an interesting idea. We've seen some of that on the extremely, extremely small scale with model rockets and gimbaled motors there. Like if you watch BPS Space, but for something like a full-size liquid-fired rocket, it makes a lot more sense to just have an engine or engines that are restartable with extra starter on board, so adding that extra tank, and then just holding a little bit of extra fuel, than having a whole extra engine, because of course they can't really throttle those solids, so they would need such an incredibly precise landing burn, and they would need that thrust to be able to be cut off at the perfect moment as it reaches the ground, and they just aren't really quite predictable enough for something like that. Plus, you'd have to have them like separated from whatever your main engines are, so I don't know whether that would be like small solid motors towards the top of the rocket almost, or what. But I mean, I think it's a cool idea, and like I said, on the small scale, some of that has been experimented with, but in terms of reusability as a whole, just restarting the same engines you're using makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, even with KER Redux, trying to calculate the suicide burn for that is just not going to work. Verbal reference, by the way, of the burn where basically you fire the engines the last possible second so that right when you either run out of fuel or you hit X to kill the engines, you are right over your exact landing site and touch down gently. So, yeah.
Now, something else that's happened is we've got a new date for Polaris Dawn.
Oh, come on. I had a good transition for that.
I'll
take
go
it
back.
Away, D.
Can we?
No, take it away.
Kevin, can we go back and let Sawyer do his? I'm sorry. You go right ahead. I'll everyone pretend you didn't see any of that. All right.
Well.
So anyway, yeah, solid rocket motors, blah blah blah.
Right. So we may not see Stoke Space launching from the Cape just yet, but one thing we will see launching from the Cape sooner than you might think is Polaris Dawn. D, you want to take this one?
I would love to. So earlier this week, we got an update to the Polaris Dawn mission. Their launch has slipped to the end of July, specifically July 31st. Now, this is a pretty cool mission. This will be the first EVA for private astronauts, and they're going to be conducting this from the Dragon capsule. So, of course, SpaceX has been working on their EVA suits, and one of the unique things about the EVA is while perhaps just one crew member will be outside of the capsule, in many ways they're all going to be experiencing an EVA because they have to open the hatch and depressurize Dragon in order for their crew member to leave the capsule. So speaking of the crew member, the commander is Jared Isaacman, pilot Scott Petit, mission specialist Sarah Gillis, and Anna Menon. And this will be a 5-day trip into orbit. It'll be higher than any other Dragon mission to date, which is really exciting to see people getting this far once again, because we've been so low in low Earth orbit for such a long time. It'll be really exciting to see, and it will be launching from that pad Not that you can see it, but it's planned for Slick 40 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It's really exciting to see. What do you think? You excited for this mission?
Yeah, I'm really excited because it's going to be the first like true tethered EVA out of a capsule where you have to depressurize the capsule since Gemini. Like that's kind of where SpaceX is in their like EVA research. They're kind of, it is kind of funny. They're following like, you know, Mercury, Gemini, and all that stuff. Next they'll make their own full EVA suits. They're going to need them for their Starship trips to Mars and to the Moon. So at some point, I'd almost guarantee they're working on them, and the experience from this will definitely help. And yeah, I can't wait for it. I hope they give us a good stream of them out, and I can't wait for the pictures that they're going to take outside of the capsule. It's going to be really, really cool, especially that high up.
Yeah, no, those suits have lots of sort of added mobility compared to the intervehicular suits, the IVA suits, and they kept them looking pretty good, I have to say. Like, they're bulked up a little bit where they need to be, and of course this iteration being tethered is one thing compared to like having a massive unit on the back of them. So they really kept the aesthetic of the suits in place despite them being bulky. And now rather than having like two different sets of suits, the intervehicular, I'm just gonna do the acronym. Rather than having both the IVA and the EVA suits on board, they're going to be launching, to my understanding, with their EVA suits, just because it doesn't make sense to have that much extra space dedicated to otherwise redundant suits. Now we know that it's going to be flying Crew Dragon Resilience, and there have been some pretty strong hints from Jared Isaacman that it will be on B1083. So I guess we will wait to see, keep our eyes on the road here, see when B1083 decides to roll out in front of the VAB.
That is something we'll be keeping an eye on. By the way, to answer the question, am I excited for it? No.
No?
I'm very excited for it.
Okay.
Gotcha. I mean, I hope we get a view from like of the kind of heads-up display that they have inside the helmets for their spacewalk. That would be so cool to see. And yeah, in terms of the crew, that's partly why I'm also extra excited, because you see them there floating in the zero-G plane. I have actually been in that plane with one of those astronauts before, Sarah Gillis, who is the woman that you see kind of towards the middle there. She was one of the people who helped out on the first ever Astro Access Zero Gravity flight, which I was one of the participants on. And so, yeah, I'm a little excited to see Sarah Gillis go from the zero-G plane to actual zero-G and floating in space. So I'm, again, Sawyer Flex, yes, but I'm really excited to finally get to see her fly.
That's the Sawyer Flex sound. Yes, exactly.
Flex train rolling through. But yeah, I mean, that's really part of the excitement. And again, this is also the first crew flight ever from Pad 40. Because previously it flew Titan, before it ended up flying the Falcon 9s. So now we get crew.
Yeah, I mean, it's been exciting to see that tower being built up there, and the emergency escape system, which they had shared at one point a pretty awesome video sliding down the wire, all that. This is their sort of streamlined tower compared to what they have at 39A, which was sort of retrofitted and refurbished to meet their needs. This is a lot thinner and just exactly what SpaceX needed for their purposes.
Yeah, because Crew Dragon, the other thing also that's interesting, by the way, just to keep in mind while I'm thinking of it, is a t-shirt environment. So, like you were talking about with the not-so-bulky suits, to be able to be in those for the EVA part and just chilling out in t-shirt and shorts kind of deal. But yeah, it's if you've ever been out to the Cape and you've been able to drive by and see how big 39A is, I mean, it's huge. You've got a Starship tower there. You've got the fixed service structure with the long crew access arm and everything for 39A. And then you look over at 40. It's tiny. There is 39A, by the way, smack dab in the middle. So you've got the fixed service structure with the flame trench. I said it again. And the Starship tower just slightly to the right of that. That is all one launch pad. Like 40, in comparison, is tiny. It is such a small launch pad when you compare it to something like 39A. So to have a much smaller crew access arm, instead of the long slide wires, to have those little slides that unfold and have that crazy chute down to the bottom for the escape system. To see all that is going to be so cool. And then just to see the crew roll out from their facilities that they have kind of near 39A, which is where they go out and do their whole thing instead of the operations checkout facility, and then roll all the way over to pad 40, I think is going to be really freaking cool.
I hope they decide to take an extra trip, just make sure you come by the press site, make sure you get the whole experience, past the VAB, heck, past some of the other pads, just do a nice drive around of the Cape.
I think they typically, Jared takes them in their planes beforehand, do a little fly around of their rocket, but then also the fact that they do have to drive past the press site to get to their suit-up facility, which is SpaceX's own facility, which I think that's also interesting to note that for any mission that's a NASA mission, they will suit up at the operations and checkout facility. That is Starliner, that is Crew Dragon, that is Orion. Whereas here, for SpaceX's private stuff, they've got their own setup for that. So yeah, the excitement is getting really real now that we have a date. I'm so excited for that crew, I gotta say.
I can't wait for it. Crew launches are always fun, but when you're going to get an EVA out of it with new suits, a new method, and it's all commercial too, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Along those lines, you've got the fact that we had our most recent Two Funny Astronauts, which you can see the recordings happen right here on NASASpaceflight on NSF Live, which is on Sundays.
Hey, isn't it 6 funny astronauts?
I see what you did there. But yeah, we actually...
that wasn't good.
That was. Mike Massimino, Garrett Reisman got to hang out with the crew and talk all with them over 2 different episodes. So the episodes will be coming out, but you can watch the interviews on NASASpaceflight's YouTube channel. And while we were kind of talking about that, we have an interesting question from JS Webb there, wondering, are you scared at all about the hatch opening for Dragon? Are any of you? I know I'm personally not, but are either of you?
I mean, I'm not scared, but I would say it's one of those things. It's a new operation. It's something they haven't done open to vacuum before. And as I said, it's new suits. It's commercial crew, but it's one of those things. It's like I trust SpaceX on that. They've always taken care crew wise, always have. And yeah, I'm not scared about it. I don't even know if I'm nervous. It's just one of those. It's new, so yeah, put it that way.
I will say I'm nervous in the same way I'm always nervous for any sort of crew operation. Nothing major. I mean, we saw the same sort of concerns when Inspiration 4 launched with the cupola, right? Like, people were talking about that, how it's a change, how it's different, and that alone was something new, and people got worried about it. And people are gonna get concerned about this as well, and I'm not particularly concerned about it, but as with any crew flight, it's always great when everyone's back on the ground safe.
Yeah, and the other thing also to keep in mind is they're working off of a lot of legacy here. This is very different from, say, the Gemini program when we had the first EVA with Ed White, and even all the way through the end of the program there with Gemini 12 and Buzz Aldrin finally coming up with the idea of, hey, maybe we can try this in a neutral buoyancy type environment. And we have the NBL for testing for NASA spacewalk, but you're going off of that legacy from Gemini, which did it, Apollo, which did it, had the entire capsule basically depressurized. So I'm not so worried about it. I'm just excited to finally see it happen, especially because, again, you've got the slightly different hatch that we're talking about here, too. It's not like it's the same doors that the crew get in and out of. You've got that hatch out the top where that cupola would have been, where the docking adapter would be for the ISS, going out that way. So I think that's cool. And Musical Wolves asking, because of the EVA, will solar activity be more closely looked at prior to launch? Would it be more likely to delay if needed? I would think it would be the same type of considerations that are in play when you're talking about, say, an ISS spacewalk, although we are talking much higher in altitude. Ryan, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it can always be a little bit more of a danger when you go in a higher altitude. So they'll, of course, they always watch it for spacewalks one way or the other. You'd rather not to expose people to any more radiation than they need to. So as always, it'll probably be monitored and just closely looked at. So, and they may delay it if they have to. They're not going to take any risks, and they won't.
Right, and this isn't a mission that's on such a set timeline that, they have to do the spacewalk itself on this exact day or else the entire mission is over. So, and Dee, I know that part of this is literally built into the experimentation.
Yeah, so they're going to be at a very high altitude and go through portions of the Van Allen radiation belt. So while they're there, they're going to be conducting research to better understand the effects of radiation and space radiation specifically on human health. So, yeah, and they're going to be 700 kilometers up. So that's just incredibly exciting. And now there's also a lot of other health research that's going to be going on, from using portable ultrasounds while they're there. Like I said, the radiation. They're going to get biological samples while they're up there, and a whole bunch of other valuable stuff that, again, science up in space to benefit life down on Earth, in addition to future spaceflight. It's always really exciting. There's so many examples of people will be like, well, what good does this do? Why are they flying to space? And it's like, well, they're doing health experiments. They're doing all these sorts of things. There's so many products and discoveries that we have made as a direct result of human spaceflight. And it's great to see that even private astronaut missions are spending time to focus on those things that are beneficial to humanity. I love seeing it, whether it's the suborbital flights, whether it's orbital flights, whether it's Axiom visiting the ISS. Taking time to support the betterment of humanity is always great to see.
Absolutely. I do want to hit some support here that we got. Telstar86, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Marco asking if we know anything about the Rocketdyne tripropellant using hydrogen, fluorine, and lithium. Which,
I'll just mention, have you read the book Ignition? You don't want to use fluorine. You don't. Let's just put it that way. It is incredibly unstable and very toxic. So even worse than normal hypergolics. So
I shouldn't use that to brighten my teeth.
Yeah, no. Early straight fluorine. Yeah. But
I got a deface palm. I take it.
that was good.
Oh,
Fluoride, not fluorine.
yeah, there's a slight difference there, Sawyer. There's a slight difference.
oh man, darn. What am I gonna do with all this fluorine that I just got then? All right.
You
You've
should
been
try it.
using
Let me
the
know how it works.
wrong thing all along.
Oh man.
That explains a lot about why my teeth are eroding. Okay.
Mm.
They're not. But anyway.
Yeah.
By the way,
There
really
was a
quick-
question
Oh, go ahead.
a while back asking, what do I say for a Ship 26 sticker for my laptop, or maybe a stubby nozzle sticker, or a flame trench even. I'm in.
No.
Someone
no,
make these
I'm deleting
stickers.
it off the screen. I'm getting it off the screen. No.
Hey,
no.
hey, Kevin,
Ship 26 sticker?
Do we have that Ship
No.
26 music? I think we should get a Ship 26 sticker
we should
and
not.
get some Ship 26 music in here. Yeah, I mean, I saw someone mention Ship 26 earlier, and I feel like with Kevin and I in here, we have to talk about it just a little bit. I mean,
You really. There is no sunshine on my shoulder right now. No, D, I'm not even using that as a transition. Good try.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
you could even talk
And-
about it in the
and-
opposite way. I think it'd be a good transition.
I'll shoot that down right away because I know they're not going to. But anyways.
Anyway, by the way, the poll, in case you're wondering what the sticker actually should be, 30%.
Yeah, what should it be?
30% say worm right now. 29% tied with meatball and NSF sticker, and other
Ooh.
is 12%.
I'd love to know. I'll have to go back through all of the chat and see what some of the other suggestions might have been in there. If y'all have any suggestions for other stickers, I will. I'll go back through that, and maybe next time you see me on here, I will have a whole assortment of new stickers until the metal of the laptop is not even visible.
Well, I have a suggestion. You should probably stick around for this next part because it's finally the Starship part. See, that transition was much better
There you
than
go.
mentioning
You got
that
the
awful ship.
transition in there.
You could have even talked about it might be getting blown away quite shortly, or you could have done that. You could have taken the Ship 26 should be destroyed angle, and then I could have fought back about it.
I knew you were going to fight back, that's why. Nope. Ryan, tower time. We got the second tower finally going up.
Well, I mean, they have the base up for now. They have the little blocks you guys see at the top there. Those are the corner pieces. They took the two off and put them back on today because they have to add shims and whatnot to the base. That's why the other two still aren't on, and that's why they haven't stacked the section. And as you can see there, the crane is also laid down ahead of a possible hurricane coming in. So, yeah. But they're adding shims, by the way, just to make sure that the tower is aligned correctly. Because, well, you don't... Once you start stacking that thing, if it's off by a little bit, well, the chopstick carriage is going to have a hard time going up and down it very smooth. And you're going to have trouble lining up the ship QD and whole lots of other things. So you kind of want it to be perfect. So yeah, that's why they haven't stacked it yet. They just ran into a few problems. It was kind of funny. There was a worker on there today. It looked like they were measuring some stuff, and he just throws his hands up and it's kind of like almost like, oh, what's going on here? It looks kind of funny, one of those things. But yeah, they're plugging along with this thing, and as you can see here, some better news for Starbase, but not for like Corpus Christi, whatever. Yeah. As of the new National Hurricane Center updates, looks like Beryl is gonna miss direct hitting Starbase. A lot of the models show that it's gonna go more to the north. There's still a little bit of uncertainty here. We'll definitely know more later tonight, early tomorrow, when Beryl gets into the Gulf of Mexico, and how much it actually steers north, on whether or not it'll actually hit it. So you can see there a lot of the models having it converge more north. So Starbase still may get grazed a little bit, but it shouldn't be nearly as bad as, say, a direct hit of like a Category 1 hurricane. So the good news is for Starbase, but of course, a little bit more north of into Texas, not so much. But SpaceX is being cautious. They laid down the LR 11,000. They've laid down the CC 8800-1. The 1600/2 over at Massey's has been laid down, as well as there's a crane over at the production site that they've also partially laid down. So they're not taking any chances. Same thing tonight. Ship 31 is going to be rolling back. They probably won't roll any of the Rocket Garden ships because none of them are flying. It doesn't look like 32 is flying. We know 20 is not flying. We know 26 isn't flying. So they're going to keep those out there. In theory, they could try to cram them into Mega Bay 2. They would have to put them on stands, but right now that bay is closed due to construction. So, yeah, they'll probably close up Mega Bay 1, keep the door closed, and whatnot. So, yeah, that's kind of what SpaceX is doing to prepare for it. So they haven't been doing a lot of work on stuff. So,
what do you mean Ship 26 isn't flying?
It's not flying, Kevin.
We don't know that. It's still there. It still exists.
I know it's not flying.
It's still the best ship.
I think Ship 26 should fly.
Well, here we were talking in the Starship channel and NSF, and we're like, all right, let's Mark 1's flaps are still sitting around, right? Let's shove those things on it, right? Let's put Mark 1 flaps on it. No, we're gonna put Mark 1's flaps.
As is.
We're gonna put Mark 1 flaps on it. We're gonna stick booster 14.1 below it with some engines, and then and the other part of that tank can be BN2. I think it's SN2 right there. I forget which one is there. The extra tank you see there. You can stick B4's aft on it, so there you get your thrust section. And then if it needs some hot gas thrusters, stick B3's hot gas thrusters on it, and bam. You got a ship and booster combo. Right, just Frank and ship and booster.
We are not putting a Frank and ship together just for 26.
Anyways, it's not flying, so it'll
just
stay out there.
If the hurricane is strong enough, maybe it will.
I mean, if the hurricane is strong enough to push over 160 tons, that's impressive. Or something along those lines. I don't remember how much it actually is, but it's a lot. It's over 100 tons. So, but yeah, that's kind of the Ship 26 denier. Yeah, I am a Ship 26 denier. It's not going to fly. I just cannot wait for them to scrap it. It's going to be so much fun. Again, that needs to be a dedicated live stream of them scrapping it inside Mega Bay 2. Needs to be a dedicated live stream.
Kevin and I need to host it, and then I will agree, and we can cry. It can be a commiseratory, very sad stream.
Play taps? I don't know.
Absolutely.
All right, Brian, then you and I are hosting a secondary stream, the anti-26 version.
No, I don't think we have the notifications for that.
That's where we cheer and celebrate as it slowly gets demolished.
Yeah. So, but SpaceX, so that's basically their hurricane preps that they're doing. There's not a lot of people around. I mean, it was just the 4th. So a lot of people took that day off, and I think they're kind of just shutting things down for the weekend, and they'll come right back to work. And basically, they have rollout closures the night of the 8th. Whoa. Okay.
There we go.
I think I may have hit the wrong button. Yep. Oops.
I was gonna start to just make it real trippy, moving around in the camera.
It's the revenge of Ship 26. It doesn't like you, actually.
No, it doesn't like y'all for talking so much garbage about it. We're here to support Ship 26, we got to see the static fire. Ship 26 is great. I love Ship 26.
Although we can't forget that we did actually have Ship 31 as well out there while we're talking of static fires and things. Finally, Ship 31 getting back out there, aka Sparky, after that arcing event that we had.
52 days.
I did see someone also call it Arky, which is pretty good too.
Yeah, 52 days after the anomaly, it completed its first cryo, actually completed it, and then it did another one. It was more of a partial cryo on the second one, and it's going to roll back tonight as there is a closure from 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. No, we will not stay up and cover it. It's only a ship coming back from Massey's, just before you ask.
We also went from absolutely nothing with that ship after the arc to back, essentially. That's the other impressive thing.
And they're still working on Ship 30 in the Bay. The heat shield is looking better. There's a lot of cool footage of what the heat shield design is now. Basically, on the main parts of the nose cone that will receive the most heating, as well as the tank section, you're basically looking at they now have basically a primary heat shield and a secondary heat shield on it now, which is we can talk about that more. It's basically like a blade of materials now, your secondary heat shield, and then they still have the felt mesh and tiles for the other part. But yeah, SpaceX they're rolling along. Hopefully end of next week we'll get a tower section stacked. We'll get booster 12 rolling out to the OLM and possibly a static fire. They've got rollout closures ready to go, and they have testing closures for next week on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. So assuming there's not a lot of floodwaters and the road's open and they can go, they'll roll that thing out and they'll static fire it. And it could be at least another month and a half until they launch, though. There's still work to do with Ship 30. Obviously, there's still a lot of heat shield work to do with it. So,
yep. Also, kind of hard to tell last night with the election results if those were the results from each of the districts or the status of those hexagonal tiles on Starship. But well, while we're looking at 31 here, Mighty Unlikely is asking, will 31 actually fly? Sparks don't disqualify?
As of right now, yes, Ship 31 is slated to fly on Flight 6 with Booster 13. Booster 13 has already had its cryo tested, and it's in Mega Bay 1 on the center stand. It was a month ago that Tim Dodd toured, but it didn't look like it had many engines, if any engines at all. However, that can easily change within a month, obviously. Ship 31 does not have engines right now. It is on the thrust sim stand. Once it rolls back, it'll probably go into high bay again, and they'll probably start some heat shield work, as well as some... They can install the Raptor centers in the high bay. If they want to do the RVACs, they have to pick it up with a crane and install it the janky old way, unless Mega Bay 2 becomes available and operational for it, which there's a possibility that the center stand in Mega Bay 2 will be available. We'll have to see where they actually roll it. Yeah, that's kind of what's ahead for 31, and then my guess is they'll replace the heat shield the same way they're doing with 30, which means they'll have to put 31 where 30 is, unless they have a new tiling station in Mega Bay 2, which we're just kind of waiting to see on that. So
that's what we'll see. But again, we know after that video that was released yesterday as well, that they're still pushing ahead right now for that catch for Flight 5. So I'm sure, a lot of focus is going to be on Booster 12 once that gets out there. But they're not going to sleep on Ship 30 either and getting that heat shield all set up and ready to go, especially after the phenomenal flap that was Flight 4.
Yeah, with the new upgrades, it definitely should survive a little bit better. they're still kind of doing stuff to the flap seals. They're still a long way to go. My guess is they're not even close to done with that yet, taking stuff off. I think they wanted to get the primary tank section done, and then they'll probably switch over to doing the smaller stuff like the flap seals and stuff. Like other things they've added new types of gap filler into some of the tiles. We've seen what looks like, I think, a stainless steel like tape basically around the outside of some of the tiles as a gap filler. We've seen a newer blue like RTV that's being put in there, which is basically silicone. It's a vulcanized silicone is basically what it is. Room temperature vulcanized silicone is what RTVS is. So it's to kind of help fill the gaps a little bit better between the tiles, so hot gases don't get in and destroy the hinges and whatnot. We don't really want that again. As much as Ship 29 survived it, you'd rather not have a tile, a flap partially destroyed. It's usually good to keep your vehicle somewhat intact. So,
the flap can't be destroyed if there aren't any flaps.
Oh, don't.
And we got a question from Steve Myers. So you think Ship 26 will fly on Flight 7? And I want to say yes. So in my heart of hearts, I will say it probably won't, but I want it to.
I can tell you for certain it won't because of FCC filings. The FCC filing, and this is why 32 is not going to fly, is because it looks like they're going to have it sounds like they're going to do new antenna styles on Starship. They started a new antenna style on 30 and 31. It's also that antenna style is also on 32. But my guess is that's going to go away. The next antenna style is going to be on version 2 whenever they stack one of those. I'm hoping soon. I was hoping they would start stacking one by now, but I don't know. At this rate, depending on how long it takes them to get through the testing and assembly campaign of a version 2 ship, if it's anything like version 1, we're looking at March, April for a version 2 flight, which means you get flight 5 here in possibly middle end of August, flight 6 maybe November, and then you get like a 6th or 7th month lull until another flight. So I'm hoping they start stacking one soon.
Yeah, and then I guess that kind of goes along with the question that Charles Winters here asked as well. Do you think maybe that they would wait for version 2 and start flying from the second tower once they get version 2? Because Charles Winters wants to know what will be the first stack launch from Tower 2. And I could see that maybe being version 2 before even, Ship 31 Booster 13, or after Ship 31 Booster 13, then we start seeing Tower 2 kick in. What are your thoughts?
Well, the real kicker is going to be does the current version of Booster work with the next version of the OLM? That's the question. And if they are going to solve some of the problems that they currently have with Booster and the pad, then no, the current version of Booster will not be compatible unless they can kind of like MacGyver it a little bit. It'll most likely be a version 2 booster that flies off that, which then means, let's see here, you got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I think we've seen 18's thrust section, and they don't really look that much different, at least from the basic season. Maybe it's only up to 17, but we've definitely seen the landing tanks up to around 17 or 18. They don't look too much different, but then again, we've only seen little bits and pieces here and there. I don't know when the first version 2 booster would be, and you have to keep in mind that pad probably isn't going to be operational until, I would say, end of Q3, Q4 next year at the earliest. They're currently only doing pilings for the pile cap around for the OLM, and we have not seen, at least as far as we know, no parts for the OLM, just the tower. So it's It's hard to give a timeline, but I still give it 12 months or more for that kind of thing. So yeah.
Interesting. And I mean, there have been discussions about potentially more segments going on to Tower 2 as well, right?
Elon did mention that it might be taller. Now, so at Archie, it kind of is a little bit taller. The base is like, if I remember correctly, the base is like 2 meters taller than the Pad A base. So it already is slightly taller, but it's really not that much. If they were going to add sections, or I should say it this way, so in the FAA document, it sounded like SpaceX wanted to get this tower stacked by mid-August. Well, part of that would mean they were starting to stack it at the end of June. Well, as you can tell, they have not done that. They are going to be about a week and a half, 2 weeks behind their schedule or more at this rate. They had planned to reconfigure the crane for the final sections at the end of July. As of right now, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to stack it that quick. My guess is it's probably going to be pushed until at least the end of August, early September, for them finishing the stacking of this tower. So say they do actually stack it within 2 months. It takes them 2 months to stack this thing. Well, if they want to put another section in, well, they need to get the columns for that section, plus the truss pieces, and then they need to assemble it all, put it all together, and get it ready to stack. Well, they're kind of running out of time to get that in. If they truly want to do that, say they want to stack it around section 6, or just under section 6, or above section 6, somewhere around that area, just to add a little bit of height to it, my guess is they would have to have those parts show up this week or next week at the latest, or whatnot. But so far, other than 4 feet that are sitting around Sanchez, which could be used to build another section, we have seen no evidence of it. So,
right, everything that was at Roberts Road over at the Cape has been sent over at this point.
Yeah, the only thing they've left over there is the QD arm, but my guess is that's getting a complete redesign, and they're not going to use the one that they have, and they're just going to build a new one over at Sanchez. So, yeah. Basically, everything else is over here now. It's still there's section 4 and 5, the 2 arms and the carriage are over at the Port of Brownsville. Probably will get transported over once the storm passes and all of that's out of the way. So,
yeah, that storm, the hurricane that was heading.
Well, it's currently a tropical storm.
Little off from it now.
Yeah, it's currently a tropical storm, but is expected to re-strengthen into at least a Category 1 hurricane by the time it gets to the Texas Gulf Coast. So
yeah, and just because the eye isn't directly over Starbase doesn't mean there can't be devastating flooding, winds, all that. So it makes sense for SpaceX and our team members who are out there to take the time to get sandbags ready. I believe the Cameron County announced sandbag distribution today, where everyone can go get 6 free sandbags for their household to protect. So if you're in that area, make sure that you are doing everything you can to stay safe.
Yes, please, everyone there, stay safe. Now, as you mentioned, the QD is still at the Cape, as is D. So I think it's time to QD on what your thoughts are.
Oh, I mean, what is there yet to say? Y'all covered this so well. I will say that there was a message in the queue. Let's have a vote on a Ship 26 emote. I support that. I can't wait to see a second tower. Of course, we've got a different orientation on that tower, so that could be really exciting for remote opportunities, with potentially that plume being directed elsewhere and our cameras having maybe a clearer view of the launch. I'm very excited for the tower to be built.
Evan, really? most things is fine. Correct about most things, yes. Correct about everything, Kevin.
Yes.
Crud off the screen.
Yes.
No, this is blasphemy. Nope. No. Thank you.
There was one
That was gross.
super chat for me, Roseanne DeVasto with a $5 super chat. The best part of keeping stickers is covering them up like 21st century bumper stickers, and absolutely, I'm ready to cover up some of these stickers. And thank you for the support.
Yeah, especially one in the middle with that old logo. I can't believe we're showing that on our airwaves still. But yeah.
Do I need to like move one of the patches down over it, uncover some of the other stickers, and just?
You know, sometimes I am wrong. I will admit I'm wrong. You don't say what I'm wrong about, though. You don't say what I'm wrong about. I mean, I am wrong about things.
There we go.
So it is not a lie. It is not a lie.
The old logo is now covered.
Okay, good.
With a patch that is duct taped on.
Perfect. There, that looks better.
The problem is I handed out every single one of my new style NSF stickers that I had.
You actually got stickers to hand out? All I got were the patches, which is so cool, but...
I had a couple. Not all too many. I got the patches that I've handed out a lot of, especially down in Starbase. It's great to see members of the community out there and be able to share some patches and whatnot.
Yep, which, reminder, if you meet any of our NSF team members here at the Cape, as well as, I believe, down at Starbase, we always have a little something for the people who stop by. So, typically, a sticker, a patch, collect them all by meeting all of us. Kevin, I got something in my eye now, even. I'm blaming that on the Ship 26 lover comment. Oh, God. She's more specific now. Stop him. Somebody stop him.
I'll be honest, I didn't even notice what mine was. What was mine, Kevin?
It was correct about everything.
Yeah, that you're correct about
perfect.
everything. Yeah.
Perfect. There you go.
D can never be wrong. Never.
Right. Oh, wrong side. There, I was just wrong. I was just wrong. There we go.
The irony.
The one thing I was wrong about today.
All right, you need to put an asterisk there for correct about everything. Except sides of the camera. B0 AWS. I'm not sure if that's short for something or if it's a ham radio style call sign, but still, thank you for becoming a CABRAT member. And George B, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Reminder, Capcom and above get access to the NSF Discord, which includes the pre and post shows for The Flame Trench, NSF's Friday at 5 p.m. comedy-style show where we discuss all the latest going on in space and discussing your comments and questions. If you want a more serious version of it and to actually kind of learn about what's happening, that's why we have Twists, This Week in Spaceflight, which also comes out Fridays right here on the YouTube channel. So make sure you check out the one that just came out today. It actually explains a little bit more of the details about the static fire mishap in China and things like that. So definitely go check that out. Who keeps adding these things to the queue?
I think you know. I just want to throw that up there real quick.
Can we revoke these access to the queue?
I don't know. So the message doesn't seem to have popped up, but it was just imagine a Ship 26 V2. Wouldn't that be great, Kevin? I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Jay, oh, Kevin's not on comms at this point.
Jay in the back channel saying that can be arranged.
You are very right. You are correct, D.
Fantastic. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. So I I love all the Ship 26 love adding us in the chat. It's greatly appreciated. Keep it up. I know that my other people on stream all appreciate the Ship 26 love here.
Every time I hear this song, I get a headache.
Just put my, I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, just.
We also had this week a launch from the Cape. It's been a good week.
Yeah.
We did, yes. We had the first direct-to-cell satellite launch from the Cape side. With 20 satellites in total, including some of the direct-to-cell launching on a Group 8 launch from the Cape. And we have Turksat 6A coming up as well, currently scheduled for Monday afternoon. So, Cape team still keeping busy, that's for sure, right?
Yeah, late nights, ready for more long days and late nights. It was, honestly, it's always a pleasure to be out here for a launch, but that Starlink might have been my least favorite in a very long time. While it was visually beautiful, I was eaten alive by mosquitoes. We've talked about how bad the mosquitoes are before, but I still am just covered in mosquito bites. And it's one thing leading up to launch, you're able to swat away mosquitoes or something, but once it gets to launch, I've got two hands on my camera, I'm tracking, and at that point, they swarm. They know that they're safe landing and biting, and that was just the worst. So I was very glad the moment I was able to stop tracking and swat away the mosquitoes. But then, of course, the second stage made it into the sunlight, which was absolutely gorgeous. So at that point, I had stopped recording. I had taken my card out of my camera. I was ready to edit some slow-mo video. But then it started lighting up again, so I had to throw my card back in my camera, start recording again, start tracking again, because we just got this gorgeous view. We were not certain that we would have a view like that. But a great time, and minus the mosquitoes, of course, which prompted us to exit the field very quickly. I will not say run, because we did not run, because running is not allowed, but we did walk at a brisk pace with all of our gear back to our vehicles.
You walked with intention.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very rare that we actually end up getting a launch that does a morning jellyfish. And I think what's cool was that we had 2 in one day. You had the morning jellyfish on the Cape side, and then the evening jellyfish with Firefly on the West Coast. So you got a morning one, and an evening one, and one from each coast. It was jellyfish and fireflies. There you go. We mistitled the stream. That's what it could have been.
Usually, the jellyfish out of Vandy is a Falcon 9. This time it wasn't.
I know. But again, I mean, I saw people sending in pictures from like Arizona and all across the southwestern United States for that one. But then the Cape, I mean, I saw photos all the way from the Carolinas.
You know what else is really exciting about this week, Sawyer?
What?
I'm going to be in Florida.
Yes! Especially because a certain someone owes me quite a few drinks.
I might. You might be right.
See, I'm not the one that's wrong about everything. Mine is right occasionally.
Yeah, there are a couple places I know I need to bring you to and Alex too. I made some promises to grab a drink at a specific bar out in Orlando.
You go back down to the Cape again. I was down there in November of 2022 at this rate, I think. Yeah. So
May need to keep mine a little closer to the Cape just because ride home. I do it 2 hours each way in a day trip. But yeah. But yes, as Jay correctly pointed in the back channel, Kevin's poor credit card. Barkeep, give me the finest items on the right side of your menu. Kevin's paying. The other thing I do want to hit on really quickly is the fact that we have Starliner. Make sure I get the right star. Starliner is still at the International Space Station. Yes. The last update that we got is that they're going to be there for a little bit until we get some test results from items on the ground. But a reminder, the crew is safe, and they wanted to emphasize strongly in the most recent press conference that they are not stranded. The crew is safe to come back home at any time. They're just using this time to actually run some tests and things, since it's on a part that is not returning to Earth. So hopefully this doesn't happen again. And they've even announced that the crew will do a live press conference from space about Starliner coming up Wednesday, I believe it is, at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern. I have to double check that. But I think
At
it's
least
just
it's not one of those Friday news dumps you get, you know?
Yeah, if only there were a live show on Fridays that could handle those news dumps, you know?
Right? If only. I don't know of anyone.
But yeah. So I wanna keep that note in there. Starliner crew is safe. I also want to point out the note that yes, there were a lot of people that pointed out in that press conference that the communication about what has been going on aboard the International Space Station and Starliner regarding this, let's use the word poor. You could add other words in front of that, but I think poor is probably the safest thing that we can say until we get to the members post-stream. But the fact that they're allowing interviews with the crew and that this will be a Q&A with this press conference, and NSF will be in that press conference. I guarantee you that. We will make sure that we are on that call, and we'll do our best to ask a question pending them actually, selecting us and saying our name properly. So, putting that out there. I think we actually had a question that was related to that. Cameron, I believe it was, asking, is the service module on Starliner the one that was originally for OFT2 that got switched out because of the corroded valve? Don't believe it was. Kevin!
Kevin!
Wrong ship! This is Starliner.
We love Starliner too.
Yeah, but Starliner, we need to come up with its own music.
We need to give Starliner its own fantastic music. I will find and send you some suggestions, and then we can surprise everyone on some stream just playing it whenever Starliner is talked about.
Sounds like a plan. Sorry, you guys can answer the question. I'll fade down the music.
Thank you. I don't believe it is, but I might be wrong. I'd have to double check the exact specifics on it. But in case people are wondering, the discussion was that with OFT2, they were going to launch it, then they had to delay originally because of an issue with the Russian side of the International Space Station. And in doing so, they noted that because they were sitting out in Florida weather, because nobody knew what the Florida weather was going to be, hot, humid, allowing moisture to get inside. Oh no, who would have thought that?
Who could have predicted it?
Not salty at all about that, because I was there for that attempt and then it didn't go. But yeah,
salty,
turns out
like
a
salt
lot
air
of those,
getting inside?
Yeah, it turns out a lot of the water got in and ended up corroding a bunch of the valves. So.
See, I'm pretty salty for that first attempt of OFT2 as well, because water didn't just make it into the valves, they also made it into my remote camera setup. And I lost a myops and a camera and a lens for that total non-launch. It's one thing to lose a camera to a launch. It's another to lose a camera to a scrub.
Unfortunately, I think every photographer has dealt with it during a launch. But when it doesn't launch and it's a scrub, those hurt the most. I had that happen during Crew 7, so I get it.
If they die getting a great photo, great. If a rocket kills it, fantastic. But a weather-related event from sitting outside and there was no launch, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I lost a camera to a flood. Got a couple pieces of support that I want to thank, but first I also want to thank all of our members, in particular the launch directors and flight engineers, which are the highest level of support. What absolutely blows my mind is that the names on this continue to grow more and more, and they end up slightly smaller so that we can get every name on there. I can't believe there are this many people that still support NSF at such a high level, what we do, and we couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you to everyone who is a member and who does the support, including someone like Jeppy getting multiple items from the store. I'm sorry we didn't get to your question about Starship V3, but still want to thank you for getting the prints there. There's the Flight 4 launch. Nice choice. Let's see what else we got. We got the Falcon Heavy.
Oh, that's a good one. Max, great shot there.
Absolutely. And on top of that, Artemis 1 retro. Nice. And then Robert also adding to a mosquito repellent fund for D.
Thank you.
I believe.
I greatly appreciate that. I will say, we had a mosquito repellent, like not even just the spray, but one of the devices that creates a cloud of mosquito repellent that's supposed to block off like 20 feet in either direction of mosquitoes. And I think the mosquitoes capable because they did not seem to care in the slightest. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for the support.
They are evil. They are absolutely
Just need to build like an electric fence around where you are at and like run 10,000 volts of electricity through it. Zap.
We were joking about, you know, if we set up a canopy and then we get a mosquito net around the canopy and we just make it a totally enclosed area, and we were less joking about these full-on mosquito suits. So maybe I'll shoot Daz a message, be like, hey, can we get these complete mesh suits that cover every inch of us for the late night launches?
Absolutely needed. Yeah, because they are evil. I mean, they were evil for Goes You. They were even worse for this. You know what else is evil? The GIFs that are created during these live streams by LSR.
Oh, I love them. Let's go. Let's see them.
I do love them. But let's see what we got today.
The facepalm, of course.
The facepalm. It's a good one.
You're welcome.
This is your fault, Sawyer.
I should pull one of those Picard facepalms.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna make a joke that would go whoosh right over everyone's head. Roll that intro.
I think it's me dying. I think it was Sawyer's comment or something.
Probably. Everyone thinks my jokes are funny.
Either that or D's.
Yep, they're funny. There we go. Just dancing to the music. Have to dance to the music always. There's a gif of me like that last time as well.
There's
my a good facepalm.
Oh, was that me? I think that was me, right?
That was in response to the music, I think.
Okay.
My problem is if I fully facepalm, I gotta clean my glasses and then it gets annoying.
You got me good there.
That is the one benefit to not wearing glasses. Well, one of them. Wow, sassy
I don't like
Sawyer.
glasses.
I like that.
Oh, I've tried contacts. It just doesn't work for me.
Hashtag sassy Sawyer. I like it. And I like that you joined us here, everyone, including D. Thank you so much, D, for taking the time to sit on top of the hut there with the BAB in the background.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I love being out here. Great place. The sun is set, so it's actually a really great temperature now, not too hot. Thank you, everyone, for watching this, and I love that correct about everything title. Thank you for that, Kevin.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to talk about mine. Brian, thank you for joining us as well.
It's fun as always, Sawyer. Always love coming on here, talking about stuff, hanging out with you guys. And that's, with that...
Oh! You're
That-
wrong.
that right
You got
there.
the wrong side too. It was
That-
not just me. I have to call
That
you
right
out
there,
for that.
that's wrong.
It
That's
was
wrong.
not just me. You were also wrong
Wrong.
about the side of the text.
I don't know. Things are mirrored, right? It's all messed up, and yeah.
Speaking of wrong,
Forget that it's
just
mirrored.
wrong. Kevin Michael Reed, thank you for operating the stream today, despite your views on shipping.
Good job.
I have been your host, Sawyer Rosenstein. Hopefully, we will see some of you in the members post show in the NSF Discord. Otherwise, we will see you on the next stream, everybody. Have a great weekend.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag, you know.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?